Quick recap on our previous video. For a circle skirt, because we'll be cutting on our fabric now, so the measurement we need is your waist measurement, which is 36 inches, skirt length, which is 37 inches, which I'll have to add 1 inch seam allowance for the lower part to hem it. To hit, if you want more you could do, but on the average plus 1 inch, so my skirt length will be 38 inches. And then I want a band for it, so band height I want it to be 2 inches. So now, having gotten my band height, skirt length with seam allowance and my waist measurement, so now the required skirt length without the band will now be 38 inches minus 2 inches, which is that of the band height. So now the skirt length without the band will now be 36 inches. So now the radius from the formula we derived from our previous video is your waist measurement divided by 6.28. So because I will need some seam allowance for my skirt to put my zip allowance, and because my fabric is by 45, and I will need 1 inch seam allowance on both sides. But if you are cutting a single piece, just add 1 inch seam allowance. But here I'll be adding 2 because I need 2 half circles to make my full circle skirt. So now my radius now will now be 36 inches, which is my waist measurement, plus 2 inches seam allowance divided by 6.28. So 36 plus 2 inches seam allowance is 38 all over 6.28. So when I divided this, I got 6 inches. And note, when we cut our circle skirt, when you divide by 6.28, you get your exact waist measurement with your seam allowance. So we'll be required to add some extra seam allowance on the upper part, because when you want to join with your band, you have to join with your seam allowance. So to make it easy, instead of just drafting your 6 inches radius then adding your seam allowance on it, all you have to do is to just minus your 0.5 inches, which is also ½ inch from the radius. So now the radius I'll be using to draft on my circle skirt will now be 5.5, that is 5.5 inches, because I said just remove this seam allowance instead of just drafting then later drafting your seam allowance. All you have to do is minus ½ inch from your radius that you got in after dividing by 6.28. So now the radius I'll be using to cut my circle skirt will be 5.5, that is 5.5 inches. So let's go to our fabric. So now this is my fabric and it is by 45. So there's no way I could fold like this and this way to get my desired length, because from our calculation my desired length is 36. So there's no way I could get that from here. So that means I will be making 2 half circles to join together to get a full circle skirt. So now, since it is by 45, it should definitely be okay to accommodate my 5.5 inch radius and also my 36 inches skirt length. So all I'll just do is to just fold this way. All I do is just do it like this, then take here and then fold over. So now I will be getting my radius from here and then the skirt length from here. To make it easier, instead of just placing it over my table and doing it this way, just also take this place and fold over this place. After doing that, you can place on your table to draft. So we'll be needing 2 of this, because this is, since it couldn't accommodate it, so I'll have to cut half circle first, then the other half. So now all I'll just do is, since this is the edge of my fabric, which is the center of the circle, so now I'll have to put in my radius, which is 5.5. My radius was actually 6 because I don't want to draft in 6. After drafting 6, then later now start drafting my seam allowance. So all I did was, from my radius of 6 inches, I just subtracted half an inch for the same allowance, which gave me 5.5. So now I will just grab, that is 5.5, then I'll go this way, 5.5, then this way, 5.5, then I will join it together. So now this is my radius with my seam allowance in which I'll join my band has been included. So now for the length of the skirt, so from the radius, that is, since this will be my waist measurement, from here down I want it to be 36 based on my calculation. But instead of just going through the stress of going this way, and not getting something accurate, I just added the 36 plus the 5.5, which gave me 41.5. So I will now start from this edge and get 41.5. Make sure your tape measure. You could use a ruler. If you have a long ruler, you could use a ruler. That is super easy. So now you could do this on the floor to make it easier. So my 41.5 will be here. Then I'll go all through. So 41.5, and then I'll keep going. 41.5. I won't mark my 41.5. Then I'll have to join the dots to make a circle. All through. So now my circle is formed. So remember I said I need two of this. So the first place I will cut is the skirt length, the end of the circle skirt. So haven't cutting it off, so I'll now cut out the radius. But to make it easier, since I will be needing two of this, let me simply cut it to make it easier, then I'll show you. So now 1 over circle has been cutting off, and now this is half a circle, so I need one more of this. So I'll be using this as a pattern on another fabric. So now let me fold over again and place on the fabric. So now I haven't cutting out the first one, so now I'll be folding again for the second circle. So all I'll do is, since I used the length of 45 before, take it this way. After determining that, take it and then fold over. I should be cutting this. I should be cutting it this way, but to make it easier, I'll just take this edge and then flip it over like this, and then place my previously cut one on it. So having folded it, then I'll use the previously cut out pattern as a pattern, on this. Then I'll cut off the radius and then also the skirt length. So I've been cutting out the radius and also the lower part. So now I have 2 half circles. Can you see? This is one, which would be for the front. Can you see that? So it already has the same allowance, and also this will be for the back. So now I have 2 circle skirts in which, when I sew together, so now I have 2 half circle skirts in which, if I join together, I will have a full skirt. It's as easy as that once you get your measurement right. So now let's just check to see whether our calculation is okay. What I'll do now is just take my tape measure and then take one of the circles and just measure to check if they are on track. So I'll just go this way all through. And now can you see we have 19? So that means we are on track because we had already added the seam allowance to it. So, and then 19 times 2, that will give us 38. So, and we actually needed 40 because 36 plus 1 inch on each side for the front. So we have 1 inch here for sewing allowance, 1 inch here. So that is 2. Then here 3. Then here 4. So 36 plus 4, that is 40. So can you now see, assuming our seam allowance is ½ inch down, for you to know we are on track. So now this is our seam allowance after sewing it to your band. So you'll be having your waist measurement here. So now let's check ½ inch down to see we are on track. We should be getting 20 because we actually needed 40. Can you see that? Can you see that? And we actually got 20. So that means after sewing to your band, you have 20, which means you'll be left with the 1 inch here, 1 inch here, 1 inch here, and 1 inch here. So with this, you can see we are on track and our seam allowance are perfect. They are intact. So that is just it on how to cut a circle skirt. So you can actually see that was very easy once you've gotten your calculation right. So for your band, since my band height is just 2 inches and I want to double it, so I'll be having 2 inch for the inner side, 2 inch for the outer side, which is 4 inches, and then ½ inch for sewing allowance, in which we have left on the upper part of our circle skirt. So you'll be needing 2½ for the outer part and 2½ for the inner part, which is 5 inches. So for the band, you'll be cutting out a height of 5 inches, and for the length of the band, that will be your waist measurement, which is 36 plus 2 inches. That is 1 here and 1 here for sewing allowance. And that is just it on how to cut a circle skirt. Hope my tutorial has been helpful. If it has, just give me a thumbs up, share my video, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, join us on Facebook, Sewing Innovations. So catch you later, guys. Bye.